They've won Tonys and Oscars and Emmys and Grammys. There's no red carpet 'cause they're home in their jammies. From Melrose Place to Broadway to Janeway and her crew. Let Seth and James bring all the stars to you.
Anywho,
they're entertaining everyone, so who's gonna grouse? Just sit right back and you'll hear some tales on Stars in the House.
So good. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanika Gibson, and I am so excited to be your guest host tonight on Stars in the House, celebrating Foster Care Awareness Month and also supporting one of my very favorite organizations, You Gotta Believe. I am so excited to be here because You Gotta Believe, one for me, is such an important organization because its mission is to place older foster children into permanent homes. I mean, you couldn't have a better mission. And for me, as a child who grew up in foster care and who was adopted very late in life, it means the world to me. I got connected to You Gotta Believe through Seth Rudetsky and James Wesley. Of course, they're huge supporters of You Gotta Believe. They put on a concert every year at Town Hall called Voices for the Voiceless. And Seth Rudetsky reached out to me in 2019 and said, I heard that you grew up in foster care and that you're adopted and that you're on Broadway. And I was on Broadway at the time playing Diana Ross in Ain't Too Proud. And he said, we'd love to have you be our keynote speaker at the Voices for the Voiceless concert to support You Gotta Believe. And I had never heard of the organization at the time. And I was so excited that this type of organization existed. So of course I agreed, even though I was really afraid to tell my story in public in front of 2,000 people at Town Hall, and all these Broadway performers were there. But I will say it was like a merging of my Broadway journey and my adoption journey all in the same place. So I got on stage with Seth and James's help and guidance and told my story in front of Kelly O'Hara and all these amazing Broadway stars. And at the time, James asked me, Tanika, who is the performer that you'd most like to perform with? And of course I said, Brian Stokes Mitchell, because one of my favorite shows is Ragtime, which I just did at City Center, and I may or may not be doing at Lincoln Center this fall. Tickets go on sale today. And so he said, of course, let me reach out to Stokes and see if he could possibly perform with you. So in true Seth fashion, Seth said, I'll have you perform Wheels of a Dream with Brian Stokes Mitchell. Oh my gosh, what? What a dream come true. And he said, you know what? How about we don't have you rehearse? We'll have you meet for the very first time on stage. And so that was me meeting Brian Stokes Mitchell, one of my absolute idols, for the very first time. My heart's beating in my chest. And I'm like, please get all the notes right. But we met on stage for the first time and we sang Wheels of a Dream. And it was literally a dream come true. David, do we have a snippet of the video that we could play?
California, who knows where, and we will run on the wings of a dream. Yes, the wheels are turning for Oscar, and the times are starting to roll. Any man can get where he wants to if he's got some fire in his soul. We'll see justice, Sarah, and plenty of men who will stand up and give us our due. Oh, and promises. Sarah, it must be true. A country that lets a man like me hold a car, raise a child, build a life with you.
Wow, that just brings tears to my eyes. Just the memories of that day was just incredible. And I would have, and without a rehearsal, yes, it was like magical. And I would have never thought. So that was February 2020, right before the world shut down due to COVID. And I would have never imagined that here we are 5 years later, and now I am on the board of believers at You Gotta Believe. It has just been such a journey from telling my story for the very first time on stage to now shouting it from the rooftops and being an advocate for foster care and adoption in this country, and to be a part of You Gotta Believe in this way is truly a dream come true. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you to Jennifer Pinder, the executive director of You Gotta Believe.
Hi, Tanika. How are
Hi,
you?
Jennifer. I'm so wonderful. How are you? It's great to see
Good.
you.
Thank you so much for co-hosting tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. So I'm just
Yes. And
wondering if
I'm sorry, I just have to jump in. I don't know if you know, I was in the audience that night. And
you
that was
were.
before and I wasn't leading YGB at the time yet, but I was there. So to have witnessed that
Wow.
amazing performance, and then now to start to lead at You Gotta Believe, and then get to know you, like, it's very full circle. So I just have always appreciated you and been blown away by that performance.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I appreciate you and am so grateful for all that you do for foster children, for adoptive families, and to connect them. And can you talk more about You Gotta Believe?
Sure. Yes. It's an honor to lead such an amazing organization. And I'm really excited, especially because we're turning 30 this year. So on July 13th, that's our birthday. So it'll be 30
Wow.
years of finding permanent families for older youth in foster care. So we have a really unique mission, as you alluded to, and it's really hard work. And it's youth centered, and it's really focused on giving youth what they deserve. And Foster Care Awareness Month, as you mentioned, we're nearing the end of May, and I'm wearing blue in honor of Foster Care Awareness Month. And it's really an opportunity to highlight these youth that are often forgotten about. And people don't think about adopting from foster care. And just as you have a personal connection to the mission, I do too, but I was placed for adoption as a baby. And that's typically the version of adoption that people are aware of. They don't know that there's 13, 14, 15-year-olds that, unfortunately, through no fault of their own, also need to be adopted. And so a lot of our work and a lot of what you're helping us do is to spread the awareness and let people know that there is a need for parents for these youth that really are just left out on their own, and then when they age out of foster care without a family, life just gets really tough for them, and it's really unfair. And so what we do at You Gotta Believe is that we train our parents and make sure that they're educated about what it's like to adopt from foster care. And we have people on staff who have been through it. They walk the walk and they talk the talk. So they've adopted from foster care. They've created their families through adoption. So they're really able to, tell the real truth about what it's like. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It can be challenging at times, but it can also be, very uplifting and rewarding. And so our staff is there to support that. We also have a number of amazing youth advocates and social workers who work with our youth and prepare them. Oftentimes, a lot of them have been told that they're too old, it's too late, it's not an
You're
option for
never
them.
too old to have a family.
Never too old, right? And so it's walking them through that, letting them know that they are worthy, they're worth it, they deserve family. And there's such an amazing group of people that work at You Gotta Believe, and they're so passionate, and they are really focused on supporting the youth and our parents in a way that it's really important to us that we provide the support. And speaking of support, what I think I'm most proud of at You Gotta Believe is that really the journey begins at the adoption, because from that point on, our staff is around to support our families for as long as they need it. So they may call us 5-10 years later and say, hey, we've encountered this issue, we don't know who else to talk to. So our staff is there.
Wow.
And in addition to just general wraparound support, we also have a really robust mental health program. And we have highly qualified, experienced therapists on staff that provide adoption competent therapy free of charge. And that I've actually been a recipient of adoption competent therapy. It's highly specialized. It's really hard to find people that can deliver that therapy. So we're able to provide that free of charge, which can sometimes be upwards of $300 an hour. So for us, it's about access and making sure that our families have the support that they need. And so what's really allowed us to continue to do this is Seth and James. So they came into our lives when You Gotta Believe really needed them. About 10 years ago, we lost some critical funding, literally overnight. And it was a really tough time for the organization. There was a question on whether or not we would be able to keep our doors open. They heard what happened and they stepped in right away. They pulled together the very first Voices benefit in 5 weeks, which is like unheard of. And they raised enough money to keep our doors open, and they've been by our sides ever since. They've raised upwards of $5 million for You Gotta Believe. So it's kind of become our signature fundraiser. And so they've, like I said, stuck by our side. And again, they too have a personal connection to the mission. So that's why they were so committed to making sure that You Gotta Believe stuck around. And thank goodness they did.
That is incredible. Wow. Wow. And that they've been supporting. And like you said, they have a personal connection. They have an adopted daughter themselves.
From foster care, yes. So they get it. They really understand our mission. And again, my personal connection with being adopted, that is why I was really drawn to You Gotta Believe, because my just like appreciation for my family. And I come from a family where I always knew I was adopted, right? So it was celebrated. I had an older brother who came to the hospital with my parents to come pick me up. And my parents love to tell the story of him holding me and saying, it's the little sister I always wanted. He tries to deny that it ever happened, but we know it's true. So we've always celebrated adoption. And so to be able to work for an organization whose mission is centered around creating families, it really just, like I said, it's an honor. It really is a privilege to be able to do this work.
That's incredible. And it's like, it was amazing to meet you officially and to hear about your personal connection with adoption and to have your support as well in sharing, my story. And so I'll just like share a little bit today that, I was born directly into foster care. I was, a ward of the state. And I was placed in this foster home with 9 other children until I was 17, basically. And in that home, it wasn't wonderful. It was not great. I kind of describe it more of like an orphanage. And, there were, locks on the kitchen cabinets and just not a great place to grow up. And at the time, I just remember looking around and saying, like, this cannot be it.
Yeah.
There has to be more. There has to be a better life than this. And I just remember looking at people who I thought I would want my life to emulate and doing what they did and asking what they did. And everyone said, do great in school, go to college, then you can get a good job, and then you can create the life that you wanted. And I wasn't even thinking about family. I wasn't thinking about adoption at the time. It just kind of happened for me by doing what I love, by performing, by doing great in school, getting good grades. And so I remember the turning point in my personal journey was I had a teacher who started to take notice, who took me under her wing, and who I'm so very close with today. And she was like a mother to me. I would actually venture to say she was like my first kind of like moral adoption, if you will. And she took me under her wing and she said, I see you. I see all the hard work that you're putting in. And I don't even think at the time she realized what was going on at home.
Mhm.
And she said, I got, it was my 8th grade science teacher, Miss Forbes. And she said, I don't think you should go to a public high school. I think you're very special. I think you should go to a private school. And I passed this school on my way to work every day. And have you heard of it? And I said, yeah, I walk past it every day as I walk to school. And she said, let's apply and see if you can get in. And so she called the school and said, I think you should accept this girl, and your school would never be the same again if you accept this girl. And the school was the McDuffie School. And so I applied. I somehow got in, and that same year, a full scholarship came out for me to go to the school.
Mhm.
Like $25,000 to go to the school. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And so I thought it was like a miracle, the fact that I even got to go to this school. So I'm at McDuffie and I'm thinking, okay, like I'm getting my education, I'm working hard. And when I was a junior, so I'm 17 years old, and here I'm thinking, I am way too old to be adopted. I'm thinking I'm just going to be on my own. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to hopefully get a scholarship to college. And then from there, I'll get a good job. Hopefully I'll be on Broadway one day, and I'll be able to take care of myself and build a family of my own in the future, hopefully. And so my junior year of high school, I'm 17 years old. My first foster mother passes away from breast cancer. And I am to be placed in a different foster home way across town. And because of that, I wasn't going to be able to go to the McDuffie School. So I've been working so hard at getting great grades, doing so well. And the headmistress of the school, the principal, Mrs. Gibson, said, absolutely not. I see how hard you're working to stay at this school, to do a great job, to be a straight A student. You know what? I would love to become your guardian. And I was like, what? Mrs. Gibson? Oh my gosh. Came to the courthouse. She signed the paperwork to become my guardian. I go home that night with Mrs. Gibson to the headmistress's household across the street from the school. I think it had, 10 bedrooms. And so I'm feeling like I grew up with 9 siblings, 9 foster siblings. So I'd never had my own room. I never even remember having my own bed. And suddenly I'm in this huge mansion with all these rooms. And she's saying, pick a room, whichever room you'd like. Like me? And I admit, I felt like Orphan Annie going to Daddy Warbucks' house. And so I was like, okay. And mind you, Mr. and Mrs. Gibson are white, and I grew up in a Black family. So we started out with so many differences. But from that very first meal we had together, it felt like I was meeting the parents that I was supposed to be with for the first time. And so, as you can probably guess, this is a picture of my adoption day. They said, we would love to adopt you. And I, after about a year of being with them, it's like, what? I never expected. I just assumed I'd stay with them till I was 18. and they said,
Yeah.
"We'd love to adopt you." And I was flabbergasted. I was blown away. They said, "We love you unconditionally," something
Mm,
I never heard before. So we love
mm.
you like you're our own child, and we'd love to
Right.
adopt you. And so they adopted me officially when I was 22 years old, my
See,
senior year of college. Goes to show you
I
are
love
never
that.
too old to be adopted.
That's right. That's
And it
right.
meant so much that they would take such a bold, life-changing step for them and for me
Hmm.
to officially adopt me. It changed the course of my life. It changed how I saw and experienced love and how I saw family.
Mm,
You know, like, and it just suddenly I had a place to go to for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and for school holidays like I didn't think I would when I went to college. And it meant the
hmm.
world. So, just to our viewers out there, just to reiterate, you are never too old to be adopted, and no child is, as an adoptive parent, no child is too old for you to adopt them. You can change a child's life at 22, at 17, at 10, at 13, no matter what age, no child is too old to be adopted. It changed my life. It changed my life.
Just love hearing that story. And I've thankfully had a chance to meet your parents a couple times and just seeing the three of you together. It's like you said, those are your parents. You are
Those
their
are my
kid.
parents. Love me from
There is
actually, I have
no
a
doubt
funny
about it.
yes, I have a funny story. I always tell this when I tell my story with Seth and James at the Voices for the Voiceless. It was so sweet that on my adoption day, all my college friends came at this big party. They gave me gifts as if they said, we feel like we missed so many of your birthdays. And they gave me gifts as if they were giving them to me, when I was 3,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a Barbie doll, and I was 5, like a pair of rollerblades, and a
I love
CD
that.
player when I was 10. And I still have those gifts. And I think maybe I'll pass those on to my children.
Oh,
Hopefully, I can adopt a child one day and pass those on to my children.
oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah, and that's one of the misnomers, right, of adopting an older youth is that, well, we don't get any firsts, where it's like, oh no, everything you do together is your first, right?
Yes.
Yes, and the idea that after 18 or 21, when kids age out of foster care, that you don't need family anymore is just preposterous. I just came back from an amazing trip that I spent with my family together, and I tell you what, just like being together, that
Mhm.
alone, just like the way that it recharges me to go back into the world, that's not something you can get anywhere else or from anyone else. And
Yeah.
I am way older than 21. So I couldn't imagine not having that right now. And like you said, celebrating the milestones, having somewhere to go for a holiday, calling for advice,
Yeah. Someone
anything.
out
Like
there in
you
the
need that.
audience,
That's right.
at graduation, it's huge.
Yes, yes. So having that foundation of support is, it's so necessary and everyone deserves it.
Yeah. I fully, wholeheartedly agree.
Yes. So, is it time to meet our
I
our
think
family, our
it's
YGB
time.
family? So we have so many amazing families in our YGB network. These awesome parents that they've decided they want to adopt from foster care. That we have again the privilege to support and walk them through the process and to just be there for their family. So one of these families is Joel, Yancey, and Ange. So we have a few questions for them. Hi.
Hey, how's it
There
going?
they are. Good. Do you all want to go around and introduce yourselves quickly?
Yeah, sure. I'm Joel.
I'm Yancey.
Are you pretending to be shy? Oh my
We
gosh.
see you, Ange.
I see you.
And then the puppy. What's the puppy's name?
Harvey, 4 years old, my baby
Oh.
brother.
Oh, hi, Harvey. Now, and you all have been to Voices, right? At least one Voices event.
We went.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
went, like I think 2 voices ago. Yeah.
In 2023. Yes, yes. So
Yeah, we couldn't get a sitter the second one.
Yep. Understandable. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're so excited to have you. So Tanika and I just have a few questions to kind of dig into your story and your background, if you're willing to share. And I'll just start with, when and how did you decide that you were going to adopt, and why did you choose to adopt from foster care?
Yeah, well, I always knew that I wanted to be a dad, and I've known for a long time that adoption was the choice for me. But it wasn't until I was at a Gays with Kids event hosted by Brian Rosenberg in October of 2022. And there were a lot of different organizations there, including You Gotta Believe, which was the first time I'd heard of the organization and the first time that I'd even heard of Foster to Adopt. And I was on a completely different path. I was 6 months into a very different adoption path for myself. And when I heard about Foster to Adopt, it was just this light went off. And I was like, oh, that's my path. Obviously.
Wow.
And it completely changed. And a month later, I was in MAP training.
Wow.
Month later, wow.
A month later.
You were ready. You were not playing around.
Yep.
That is
And Yancy, what was your experience? Like, what were your thoughts as you all were preparing for this?
We were dating at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm adopting." I was like, "Okay, it will take years."
Right? You thought you had time.
Yeah.
And
But
he chose me.
Yes.
Yeah.
you did.
And
I just wanted to ask, how did Ange come into your life?
Well, after I went through the training and I was getting ready for the home study, I went to a matching event, which is one way to go through the process. And I met a caseworker from the Department of Children and Families, Anne Marie. Remember Anne Marie? Yeah, shout out to Anne Marie. And we hit it off right away. And after just a few minutes of conversing with her, she said, "I think I know your kid." And
Wow.
you don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it was the journey, the mission from becoming a parent was to becoming his parent.
Yeah.
and
That's
he adopted
amazing.
Andrew with me.
That's
Yes,
right,
you
Ange.
Yes.
So do that. Now, you referenced the parent training,
Yeah.
which we talked about a little bit earlier. Can you just talk more about, like, how do you feel like it prepared you? What was their process like for you? Did you learn a lot? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. It was a lot. It just kind of became part of my weekly routine. I think it was like one night a week. I just made it, ordering takeout for myself and sitting down and, just getting into it. And that community of people who were on the same journey, and I'm still in contact with a lot of those people. A lot of those people, are placed with kids and are parents now themselves, and we see each other at YGB events. We text each other. Like, that community stays with you.
That's right.
And that ritual and that community, and learning from people who were foster kids themselves
That's right.
in those classes. And I remember the day that people came in who had recently become foster parents. And it was an amazing experience. Intense because you have to ask yourself a lot of big questions in those trainings.
That's right. Because I've actually taken the training myself to gain an understanding of what that experience would be like. And I've heard, we thankfully have a really diverse pool of parents. So sometimes there are parents who already have biological children, some, single parents, married, everything in between. But what I often would hear from the parents who already have biological kids is they said everyone needs to be taking this training if they become parents.
Yes.
Not just parents who are adopting from foster care, because it just, like you said, Joel, that you learn a lot about yourself, and you really have to examine, like, who you are to make sure that you're really prepared to take this step.
I can't imagine going into this cold, and it's made me, I think it's made us both like lifelong learners as parents.
Wow.
Wow,
That's amazing.
that is beautiful. Oh, and it's what's so gorgeous to see you together. And can you tell us, how has your lives changed since you become a family?
I mean, how is it not?
Literally. Oh, look at that picture.
I love these photos.
Yes.
Yeah. How has our life not changed? I mean,
Every
truly.
aspect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Just
Wow.
everything. I mean, our routines, our day to day, how we plan our lives, how we think about every moment, every decision,
What we watch, what
what-
we listen to.
what we listen to. Yeah, every
Holidays.
moment, everything. I mean, it sounds so broad, but yeah, just everything.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And Ange, how has it been for you, this whole
Yeah.
experience?
How have you been? You been good?
Like your dads.
Thumbs up
And
for
I've
dads.
seen you all together, and you always seem to be having a really good time. Just it's as if you have been together forever, honestly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a whirlwind for sure. I mean, like our first Zoom call was in August of 2023. You moved in October of 2023, and the adoption was finalized in November of 2024.
Wow.
Wow.
Say what now?
Say what
I know,
now?
right? I'm right. But I cannot imagine.
Want me to say what now?
I don't want you to say it. You don't have to say a darn thing.
I'm great.
See, honey.
I love it.
His musical, his school musical opens on Friday. So.
What's the musical?
Really?
Oh, they asked you what musical you're doing.
Yeah, what musical?
You want me? Are we getting stage fright? This is not anyone who's watching who knows Ange knows that this is a complete act.
Yeah.
This is the acting he's ever done. The Tony goes to Ange and his stage fright. They're doing
I've seen
Finding
Ange
Nemo
live
at
in
his public
action.
school.
Hey.
No?
I can already tell you're a fantabulous actor.
Well, we're
And-
very proud and very excited.
I'm H2O intolerant.
Is
Well
that
done.
is that a preview to the performance?
It's a preview.
Yeah, that's the big line. That's the big line.
I love that.
I
Well,
Hello.
Hey, Ange. Can you talk a little bit about how now since the adoption has been finalized, like what role has YGB played in terms of supporting you post adoption?
They've been terrific. We continue to utilize their mental health program. We work with them twice a week.
Wow.
Great.
We know that we can reach out to them with anything at any time. We go to a lot of the social events. We went and saw Maggie Rogers at MSG. Do you remember Maggie Rogers?
Hey,
Wait, say what now?
Maggie Rogers. Remember?
Sorry, say what now?
All right. Well, you're.
I'm Maggie Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
yes. That's great. And I'll say about the mental health program, what our clinical director always makes note of is that the whole family is the client. So it's not just putting the youth into the therapy. Sometimes it is just the youth. Sometimes it's one parent. Sometimes it's both. And it really is highly specialized in that way, depending on what issues are being addressed. So I'm really glad to hear that you all are able to take advantage of those services.
We're incredibly grateful for it. Yeah.
That's incredible. So I just want to ask, your newly adopted parents, what would you say to any parent who is considering adopting from foster care, who may not know anything about it?
Yeah. Do you have any advice?
I'm not there.
Any advice?
No.
No, you're good. There's a dog barking outside, so obviously.
Dog.
Um,
What? See,
That
that's a great act.
that was dog for and dolphin. All right, we're coming up. We're coming out of the shell now.
What animal is
Um,
that?
Does the animal have a name? No.
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 So talented Ange is.
So talented. I know you're going to be the star.
Oh. Well,
Well, what I would say, no, hold on. I mean, I would first let them know that it's a thing, because I think it's the
Yeah.
lesser of the family pathways.
Mhm.
You know, I think everyone knows about fostering and adoption, and there's that middle place.
That's right.
I think people need to know that, like, you don't do this alone.
Kitty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even as a single parent, you know, you are not doing this alone. You have your MAP group, you have YGB, you have you have Ange,
You have Ange. Yes.
you have your village. Hopefully you don't have any villains.
No villains.
You know, you have your sons, you have your daughters, you have your moons, you have your sons.
That's right.
You don't have to be rich to do this.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
I think people get scared that, you know, like, you have to have millions and millions of dollars in the bank to do this. That is not the case. It is. I will say that it is not for the faint of heart.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
you know, it is a journey, and even though ours was relatively quick, you know, it was still something that, you know, every day was, you know, there was a lot of hope and a lot of
Mhm.
you got to believe. That's why it's called You Gotta Believe.
Yes. Yes.
And you got to follow up. That's why
That's right. I appreciate
we
your
do not need.
candor.
That's correct.
So before we let you go, what would you say to anyone who may be considering, now that they've learned that it is a thing, right? That
Yeah.
this is an option, and they're hesitant. What would you say to that parent or parents who just are on the verge and maybe not quite sure about taking that next step?
I would say that you will surprise yourself how much love you have in your heart.
Mm.
Like, you think you know what your family is going to look like. It's gonna look different.
Yeah.
At one point I thought I was gonna have a baby, you know?
Yeah.
And I have my baby,
Oh,
you know?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you do.
You definitely do. A talented
Well,
baby.
A talented baby. Well,
A
join
very
me
talented baby.
and-
Opening in Finding Nemo on Friday at 6:30.
Nemo! I knew it.
Perfect. Well, Ange,
Get your
break a
tickets
leg
now.
Friday. And thank you so much for your story and,
Love a
you
lip
know, just
drill.
being-
Yeah, right, right.
Warm it up. Warm it up.
That's right. That's right. Tanika knows the drill. But yeah, thank you for sharing your story. It really is touching. And
My
we're
pleasure.
just so glad to have you part of the YGB family. You know how it goes. You're stuck with us forever. So
Absolutely.
this is just the beginning.
Vice versa.
And it's so
Well, thank
wonderful to
you.
meet you.
you.
Wonderful
You too.
to
Thank
hear
you.
some of your talent. And I'm wishing you the best of luck in your musical. And truly, thank you so much for your sharing your story and being with us today.
Yeah, no, happy to pay it forward. If just, you know, I heard some beautiful stories not too long ago that made me realize that this was our path. And so if our story can do the same,
I have
happy
big
to.
giant lips.
We know
Yeah,
you
you
do.
do.
We know
Those
you do.
lips are bigger than your head. Ooh.
Good for kissing. All right.
You again.
There you go.
Bye.
Okay.
So
They
sweet.
really are the best. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
They're
so
just
sweet.
family.
I mean, again, you would have never thought that the adoption was just in 2023, right? Seems like they've
That's
been together.
amazing.
Right.
Honestly.
Truly
Yeah.
meant to be. I don't believe in coincidences, right? Just
Mm-mm.
like you said, your parents chose you. I believe mine chose me. You know, it really is kismet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's good.
So we do have one more guest.
Another special
that I'm
guest.
really excited about. Um, So one of our members of the Board of Believers was our dear friend, Willie Garson. And Willie just did so much to sort of elevate the mission of You Gotta Believe. Anything we asked him to do, he would do. Any interview, he would pop on. He performed at Voices a couple of times. And Willie's personal connection to the mission was that he adopted from foster care. So Willie adopted his son Nathan when Nathan was 7 years old, I believe. And they were seemingly pretty much inseparable. So we unfortunately lost Willie in 2021. But we thankfully have been able to remain connected to Nathan. So with that, and I know, Tanika, you briefly met Nathan in
Just at the
November at the most recent Voices, but I think now we'll do a proper introduction to Nathan if we want to bring him onto the screen.
Hey, how are you guys?
There he is. Hi,
How are
Nathan.
you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's good
Thank
to
you
see you.
for
So
being
Nathan, Tanika, Nathan.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Wonderful to see you again. We met just briefly.
Oh, yes, I
Backstage.
remember.
It's pretty hectic backstage, but
Yes.
So Nathan, Tanika and I have been talking about our personal connection to the mission, which you also have a personal connection to YGB's mission. Can you talk about when your dad came into your life?
Yeah, so I was 7. And it was it took a second for me to kind of get to know him, and we kind of had like play dates and stuff. I'd never done something like that before. Um, so it was kind of new, and it was cool that I got to meet someone first and actually get to know them a little bit. Um, and met him at a fair, and he kind of walked up to me, introduced himself, and we kind of got along. And yeah, I mean, started off with a few play dates, and it was a blast. I couldn't have been more thrilled, and I actually had I what he was like he actually asked me once. He said, "How would you feel about moving in with me or living with me?" And at first I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Well, we would be together forever. How would you feel about that?" And I was thrilled. I was like, "Oh, that sounds fun. I mean, you're really fun. I like you. Yeah, let's do this." And yeah, I was 7. That was back in 2008. So,
Wow.
oh yeah.
Wow. So at the time, did you know that this man who was becoming your father was this amazing actor, one of my favorite actors personally? Did you know that this man was this amazing actor? Or
No, not at all. I had no idea who he was. I was just like, this guy likes me, and I like him, which was it was kind of really nice because had I known all of that beforehand, well, I guess nothing really would have changed for me. I don't think I knew what that meant,
yeah,
especially, you know, I don't know. I don't think it would have changed anything for me, but
yeah. And boy, I think it's so beautiful that he supported organizations such as You Gotta Believe. Why do you think that it was so important for him to be an advocate for organizations like You Gotta Believe?
to him, I would say he just genuinely cared about
Mhm.
organizations like this, and he actually believed. And I also believe that they work and they do what they're supposed to do. And so helping kids get adopted, that was something that he really cared for. And
Mhm.
so something he cared for, he was going to put time into, and he was going to do whatever he can to you know feel as if he's also able to make a change about it, and he did.
You really did.
Yeah.
Now, Nathan, you were kind enough to grace the stage for us back in November at Voices. There you are, right there. Oh, and then that's a capture of your father from a previous Voices event. So, just like what an amazing legacy that you all have created. And then in gosh, was it last month, Nathan, that we were just together in LA? Yeah, in April. So Warner Brothers Discovery has been just an amazing corporate supporter, and they started the Willie Garson Fund, which is continuing to grow, which has allowed us to deepen our programming. And one of the many things that came out of the Willie Garson Fund being established is that so many of your dad's friends have come out of the woodworks and decided that they also want to support You Gotta Believe in many different unique ways, really. And I know one of your dad's favorite pastimes was poker. And so he played poker with a lot of folks, I'm learning there's this whole subculture of people that are just constantly playing poker. And so to that end, we've now had the 3rd annual Willie Garson Poker Tournament. And this time, for the first time ever, was hosted on the iconic lot at Warner Brothers Discovery in LA. And Nathan thankfully accepted the invitation to join. He sat down, won a few hands.
Just a few, not many.
Yes, enough. There he is.
Kept that poker face up.
And it was actually Willie's good friend Ellie, and Ellie cast Willie in Sex and the City, and so they've known each other since then. So Ellie is the one that came to us and said, "Hey, I'd really like to do this fundraiser, this poker fundraiser." And from my vantage point, it really has been beautiful to see this legacy continue and to meet your dad's friends through this, because he was the type of person that you could tell he really invested in his friendships, and he made everybody feel like that they were his best friend, or he was everyone else's best friend. And then witnessing all of his friends, all of them didn't know one another. And so now this has been not only a fundraiser, but kind of a reunion for people to be able to connect and sort of honor and celebrate your dad's legacy. And I'm really glad that you were able to join us for this most recent one. And at the end of the poker tournament, as we're on the lot, I approached you and asked you a question. Do you want to share what that question was?
Yes. You asked me to be on the board of Believers.
That's right. And I said, you don't have to answer now. And I almost couldn't even finish the request. He said, no, absolutely. And I was just blown away and so excited. And so this is
I could not have answered fast enough, honestly.
And why? Why did you decide to agree to join You Gotta Believe?
Well, I believe in your guys' mission, and I just love, what you guys do, and to me, that's really important. So, I couldn't have been asked. I would have answered faster, but I didn't want to be too rude.
I'm just so grateful that you accepted. And the fact of the matter is that you've been advocating for us for a while. We had a screening of Shazam, which is about foster kids who are superheroes, because foster kids are superheroes. And you came and, you delivered a speech and met a lot of our youth and families there. So you've already been doing it for us. So really, this is just about us making it official. So thank you. This is the official announcement. Yes. No one else knew. We're glad to finally, I couldn't wait to let the world know that you're continuing this amazing legacy that your dad has, set the foundation for. And it really is an honor to have you officially be part of our team. So we're so excited. And speaking of excitement, what excites you the most about, joining YGB in this capacity is on the advisory board?
I think it would just be to continue, advocating, spreading word, because I think it's really important for people to know, what these kids go through. Every kid has gone through different stuff. and you never really know everything that they've been through.
Mhm.
And you know, when I had started, you know, getting to know my dad, it took a while for me to open up to him about everything. I think it took me close to like maybe 5 years before I fully
Mhm.
shared everything that had happened in the foster care system. And, um, you know, I think it's important to hear also the kids, and it helps them trust you. It creates a whole different kind of relationship because when you're in the foster care system, sometimes you're moving between houses, you're moving between people who are taking care of you and who are looking at you as more of a paycheck rather than, oh, I want to care for this kid. And, you know, so I think it's just really important to keep advocating that. And I want to keep doing that.
That's beautiful. I was going to say, what do you think that, people should know about adopting from foster care? What would you say to prospective parents who are considering adopting from foster care?
Yeah, I mean, it has its ups and downs.
Yep.
Every family does, you
Mhm.
That's
know.
right.
And in the end, I think what you create out of the relationship between adopted parents and the adoptee is incredible. You know, it's probably not something you can create. Uh, I would say between uh, creating a child between two people.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a special,
I would
unique
say it's a special, unique relationship.
That's
relationship.
right.
Yeah.
And when we talk about family and adoption, it's you gain more than just a parent, right? Where you have an extensive family that I know who loves you, and one of those people that I've also gotten to know, thankfully, is your uncle John, who he's every poker tournament he supported us. He's always asking what he can do, and so as a matter of fact, he just donated $500 tonight for
Oh
tonight's event.
wow.
So
Awesome.
just it's just amazing the way that he has shown up and really continued to support YGB. But Nathan, I'm beyond excited that we're now officially connected, and I really look forward to continuing engagement with you and also really getting advice from you. Because you have a perspective that I don't have, and really helping us to continue to spread awareness of our mission. And I know you're going to do an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and thank you for joining us today
Oh,
and
thank you for having me.
sharing,
Please.
truly, and all the work that you have done and will continue to do for You Gotta Believe.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
right. Thank you, Nathan. I'll definitely be in touch.
All right. Good to see y'all. Thank you.
Night night. He's really
Wow.
just
Wow.
amazing.
To hear Nathan's story, to hear Ange and Joel and Yancey's story, and there's just so many more stories,
That's right.
so many more families to be created. And it starts with You Gotta Believe. Well, it
Right.
starts with connecting the child
Yes.
with the family, but a lot of these stories have started at You Gotta Believe. So to be a part of You Gotta Believe myself is an honor, and to be working with you, Jennifer, I'm so grateful for the work that you do and continue to do for families and for awful youth.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you and the support.
Yes, yes. And speaking of support, we need your support. So do not forget to donate. You can donate at the a QR code in the corner.
Mhm.
You can visit pledge.to/Sith with YGB. You can text Sith to 707070. There's many ways to donate. No amount is too small. You
Okay.
know, from $1 to $1,000,000, we'll take it all.
That's
And we
right.
do have a matching donor up to
That's right.
$1,000. So please, please support You Gotta Believe. The work they do is truly life changing, and you will not regret it. It's a fantabulous organization.
Thank you, Tanika.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us today on Stars in the House. It has been wonderful to be your guest host for tonight. And don't forget to donate.